so excited and we are so happy to be starting this beautiful celebration this day. So we light a candle for everyone, and I ask you all who wish to join us to get your candles ready as I send this beautiful and magnificent blessing to the Divine Mother and all the Marys who have been trying to reach out to us and encourage us to know we are divine. My beloved Celestine.
And to the Great Mother, we also wish to honor her. We honor you, Great Mother. And so we light this candle in this sacred moment. And we ask that the light go forth in all its splendor and passion. In honor of this moment, may it be holy, and may the workings of this day be forever, eternity. Om Shanti.
And now if we could have our dear beloved Ame Lyndon Adams. She is a channeler of the Ascended Masters, and we've asked her to join us.
And good evening, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be with you all. And it's my pleasure just to get us to call back our energies and fully arrive. So I invite you, if you feel comfortable, to gently close your eyes, uncross your legs. And we're going to just start by calling back any scattered energy we may have left laying around. Energy follows awareness. So you don't have to know where you left it, why you left it, or who you left it with. Just call it back as we take a breath together, in through the nose and out through an open and relaxed jaw, twice as long on the exhale. Let's take a breath. And on this next breath, bringing your awareness to the base of the spine and dropping a grounding cord down each of your legs to anchor deeply into the crystalline energy of Mother Gaia. Let's take a breath. And on this next breath, you're going to call up the energy from Mother Gaia, the energy of dynamic aliveness. Call it up. See it coming up through your legs and your thighs and coming up your spine and floating back into your heart. Let's take a breath. And on the next breath, you're going to travel up the spine. 300 feet above the top of your head is your intention to connect with source energy. And you're going to download your divine birthright gifts: divine light, divine love, divine grace, divine wisdom, divine compassion, and divine gratitude, bringing all those gifts down the chakra ladder, placing them into your heart. Let's take a breath. And as you feel the presence of these wondrous energies now gathered in your heart, remind yourself that you are an aspect of divinity. And so we begin. Bring yourself out very slowly.
Very beautiful. Thank you very much. Amen. Your energy is just simply divine. I wanted to introduce our fabulous and wonderful team. We have such an amazing group that's with us. We have been practicing and rehearsing and singing and dancing and doing all kinds of delightful, wonderful things. So I just wanted to acknowledge these powerful women and men our sacred masculine as well that's on the call, Michael and Diana and Darren, who's our champion tech guy. We have the beautiful celebration as we begin to go forward. Thank you. Blessed be. James Mosley and Denise Relis and Momo Cortez have produced a beautiful music for us that we will get to enjoy. And they weren't able to be live with us at the very start. So anyway, we just wanted to acknowledge them as well. Our special guest tonight is Elizabeth Kelley, and you can thank Elizabeth for, she cracked my whole world open when she started to share her magical stories about Mary Magdalene, and I was completely blown away. And so Elizabeth, she is with the Holy Order of Mary Magdalene and a complete and devoted priestess of a Hierophant priestess, the highest order. And she has a Lyceum of the Sophia that many of us have been ordained in. And so Elizabeth, we are deeply grateful for your presence and she's going to share with us the stories of St. Francis of Assisi. Elizabeth, I'm going to turn it over to you. All right, great. Thank you, Elizabeth.
This presentation came together very quickly as Christy asked me to help support her and Diana Melchizedek and Michael Melchizedek in their fundraiser for the animals, and to work with St. Francis of Assisi, since she remembered me telling her the story of when I went to Magdala and how I connected with the Franciscans in Magdala. And now there's an incredible sanctuary there, and this is what the presentation will be. She first asked me if I would talk about how I became so impassioned in this work, and I had a download, an incredibly exquisite like apparition experience that was just so profound and so sweet in 1989. And that's over 30 years ago. And that just compelled me to move forward in this work. But it was right on the edge of Easter. So from this experience, I began to see Easter through the eyes of Mary Magdalene. And my whole perception, even though I was raised Catholic and had the traditional teachings of the Catholic Church on Easter and Resurrection, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, Easter Sunday, I began to see it entirely different. And at that time, I was a close friend of both Rabbi and Nathan Siegel. And for those who know these rabbis who have passed, but at the time, Joseph was very ill, and I happened to be there with him, attending him after he had a serious car accident. And so, again, instead of my normal perception shifted to see this whole other way that Magdalene could have worked with Jesus in the resurrection. So within days after that, my mother died. And it was a really shocking and unexpected experience. And I went back to upstate New York, where I'm from, I'm from Syracuse, New York, and when I was taking my companion to the airport, my friend Scott, who went through the whole trauma, the shocking trauma of my mother passing, I took him to the airport. I met two Russian Orthodox priests, and they invited me to celebrate Russian Orthodox Easter at their monastery, which is outside of Utica, being at Holy Trinity Monastery. And being at this monastery was a quite an awakening experience. And it opened me up to the story of Mary Magdalene in a very different light. And I spent about 5 days at this monastery. And right here on this seat, one of the monks who had invited me knew of my interest and passion with Mary Magdalene. They had just finished a book on Mary Magdalene. He gave me an icon of Mary Magdalene, and he was the first to say, "You should start your own order of Mary Magdalene priestesses." And it was like a shock to me. It never, it was, I was afraid of the whole, of what he said, but eventually, through the last 30 years, it did happen. And, many have been ordained through my lyceum. And this is, again, an icon of Mary Magdalene and the red eggs and this whole world of the holy myrrh bearers and all that Mary Magdalene presented through the Russian Orthodox tradition, which was quite a surprise to me. And then I went on a pilgrimage immediately after that to the Basilica of St. Anne in Quebec, where my mother came here to say prayers to conceive a child. And it's a very much of a healing place where people come for healings. These are their crutches. And they also come to pray to conceive a child. And my name is Elizabeth Ann. So I'm named after St. Anne. And you make this very profound walk on your knees up these stairs to ask for either forgiveness or for what you are petitioning. And so Christy has encouraged me to do this, but she encouraged me to talk about pilgrimages, and I made a pilgrimage within several months of that to Saint Baume, which is in southern France. And again, it opened me up to this whole other Magdalene reality that I did not know. So the point of showing the pilgrimage, different pilgrimage sites, is to say that in my mind, the major pilgrimage was to go to the Holy Land. And it was inspired by finding out that Saint Francis of Assisi went to the Holy Land and established a church and a hermitage there. And there was a sanctuary in Magdala, supposedly since 1220. And that's the high Middle Ages. So I was determined to go there, and again, through the initial rabbis that I cared for, they set it up for me to be able to travel to Magdala, which, in what I had learned through my research, called the Village of the Dove. And as we know, the dove is very sacred in many traditions, the goddess traditions, but through into the Cathars, and always sacred in relationship to Mary Magdalene. It was an important place on the trade route between Babylon and to Egypt. So lots of goods and ideas and herbs and spices all traveled through Magdala on the way passing. It was a very fertile place. Jesus meets Miriam of Magdala in the village of on the Sea of Galilee. But I arrived at the exact same time that President Clinton arrived in October 1994 for the signing of the peace treaty of Jordan with Jordan. And it was an extremely optimistic time. As everyone knows, Israel can be extremely tense in a very dangerous place. But I happened to hit it at a time when there was this hopefulness and this air of peace. And that peace treaty with Jordan has maintained to this day. Put a map in. I always like to show people maps. And as we've all heard of Tiberias and Magdala and Capernaum, these are the major cities that are spoken of in the Bible. But in trying to find where Mary Magdalene's abode was in Magdala, I went first to Tiberias, and my friend, her name was Alicia, she drove me, and we drove back and forth, trying to find a Franciscan monastery or church or something, but there was absolutely nothing there. It was a Palestinian village in 1994 with no Christian sign of a church or anything of devotion, except there was this sign that said this was Magdala. And I want to show you this, which you can't probably tell what it is, but it was a Sufi shrine, was on the roadside next to the sign, and that's going to be important a little bit later, but I'm going to carry on. And this is probably that Sufi shrine that was right before the road was built. So this is Magdala in around 1910. I, impassioned to be in the Sea of Galilee, I pulled over with my friend, and I decided I was going to swim in the Sea of Galilee. If I couldn't find the Franciscan church, and there was absolutely no church, we went to every tourist board. We tried extremely hard until I decided to swim in the Sea of Galilee. And in swimming in the sea, a caretaker, a beautiful young man, came out, terrified my friend because she was Israeli and he was a Muslim. But he was very sweet and very kind, and he said, "I got a surprise for you. If you want to see, I have something very special to show you." And I covered up, came out of the water, covered up, and went in, and he opened up this big corrugated gate, and it was very high metal fence with barbed wire, but inside was this magical place, and it looked something like this. And I'm sorry I don't have my original photographs because I experienced a house fire and they were all burned. And as you can see, this is one picture that I have rescued that shows the Franciscan monk that I spent time with, and he introduced me to the excavation papers of the property that was believed to be Mary Magdalene's home. And the Franciscans have been caretakers of the property since exactly, their presence was there since the 1200s, the early 1200s, but between back and forth of who owned the property, it was mixed between the Orthodox and different sects. but they were the primary caretakers. And this is where I had to go when I went to Jerusalem to meet with the head of the excavation of Magdala. And this is it looks still very much like this. There's no cars. It's the Villa della Rosa, and it's the way of suffering. It's where it's the path that Jesus took on his during his sorrowful time of carrying the cross. And this image is a current excavation site by the Franciscans of the Holy Land. It's not, I don't believe it's the site that I saw. It doesn't look like the site I saw. I had, such a frustration that I have lost the photographs I took, because they were really extremely amazing, with pillars in the shape of a heart, pillars with pomegranates along the bottom. It was really beautiful. But here's a painting that my friend Andrew Annenberg has done with the imagining of that, with the Sea of Galilee in the background and Mary Magdalene. And this is a view of Magdala. And this is the story that I'm really excited to tell. And this is the story of Saint Francis' fifth crusade, when he was brave enough to go and meet the Sultan Malik al-Kamil. And it's now becoming an extremely important story, because it was not safe to go to the Holy Land, because this Sultan ruled over all of Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. And the story of Saint Francis meeting with the Sultan and with his companion Illuminatus goes back to 1220 AD. And when they first saw him, they took him as a Sufi holy man. They thought he was a Sufi, and they had never seen Christian monks in brown robes and humbly dressed. But the Sultan was very educated and very used to being with Christians, because he was living in Egypt, and at that time Egypt had been predominantly Christian. Not at his time, but for the first, say, 500-600 years, Egypt was predominantly Christian, and during his time it was Muslim, but there was a strong Christian population. But there is now, because they were celebrating like the last 800 years of this interface dialogue between Saint Francis and the Sultan, has really been a very important movement within the Catholic Church and within the Franciscan order. And there's even a movie that has recently been made about the Sultan and the saint. So I just found this, and I felt like I needed to share it. And we have a pope who is our first pope to take the name of Saint Francis, and they share a tremendous amount in common, in the sense of they had a special encounter that changed their life. They both shunned luxury, and they advocated for peace. They had a love of creation. They were devoted to Mother Mary. and they said no to all the corruption in the Catholic Church, which is quite a statement. And so we have an icon. This is the oldest icon of St. Francis, and his dedication to the sanctity of the land. And here in Magdala on the Sea of Galilee, this beautiful church has now been built. This is an absolutely exquisite devotion to Mary of Magdala, but also to the women. And so as you enter in, these pillars are dedicated to all the different women in the Bible that supported and traveled with Jesus and was a strong part of his early ministry. So it's quite a statement that they would create a place to exalt the presence of women, and this is the inner sanctum of the church, and this is the altar. And so they created an altar, a boat has their altar to show that Jesus first preached from a boat on the Sea of Galilee, and looking out that window is the Sea of Galilee. And this is another very important piece in the excavation, which is called the Magdalene Stone, and it has this beautiful, like, a combination of the flower of life and Vesica Pisces and the menorah, and it's quite an important archaeological find, the greatest find in our century so far. Again, to show the similarity of St. Francis of Assisi and Mary Magdalene, they both were painted with an appearance of angels and a relationship to sound and the visitation by higher forces and sound frequencies with the angels. And again, a similar representation of Mary Magdalene and St. Francis, and another one. But this is another very important piece that I have just discovered, that St. Francis had a vision of the feminine Trinity. And so again, much discussion going on about this apparition experience he had of a feminine Trinity, and it's been painted and used as an altarpiece. And here's some, if I know it's a lot of information at one time, but this is some documentation that this is only the centerpiece of 16 panels that have been put together around this vision that St. Francis had of this feminine relationship with the divine. And there's this is another image of a mystical marriage that he had with what he called Lady. I got too excited about all this information. So,
well, you know, that's what's so wonderful is there's many out on the call have already had apparitions and things happen to them. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. You have been near and dear in my heart. The piece about St. Francis was so important because he was so compassionate about the animals. And he also led you, because of your trying to seek your passion and your drive to find Magdalene, he led you to go and find the Franciscan monks who were in Magdala that you were able to connect with. Diana brought us up to her land. They bought 80 acres up there that has this stunning view of Mount Shasta. Of course, what's happening now is there's the fires on the mountain. Now the mountain's on fire. So they set up a GoFundMe. So we wanted to do a healing dedication about the GoFundMe. And then she had a friend paint a dream of creating an animal sanctuary on their land, because the animals are fleeing the fires and coming to their land. So, and Diana, if you could talk about what you guys are doing. Well, Diana and Michael, take it away.
Okay, perfect. So, as most of you know, there was a huge fire in the Mount Shasta area that's burned, I think at this point, close to 27,000 acres. And it was named the lava fire. So the land that we have, this particular area was very fire, especially coming to one side of our land, was about less than a quarter mile away, and it stopped. So our land has literally been untouched on any sides. There might be slight singeing on the far, so you can see there the mountain. We have an incredible view. But driving in, the few mile drive in off of Highway 97, it was doubtful. It was really devastating here. But the closer we got to the land, like I said, about a quarter mile away, we started seeing green again. And we knew that the land was okay. So the animals have really nowhere to go. If you look at the land beyond ours, no living thing really could survive. We've always wanted to make a wildlife sanctuary, but this pushed it. What we are trying to do, raise money for, is to create a water source. And Michael, I'm going to let Michael take it from here because he has the experience to do this. We do have a well on our land. And so what we're trying to do is to finish the process of bringing the water up, which will require a generator, and build a water source. So I'm going to let Michael take it from here.
Okay, so basically, building this is, as I grew up on the farm, a lot of the older farmers had to do this because their wells were like 100 feet deep. So they didn't have much to play with. But what I did learn and help build with was the fact that we're gonna build an ecosystem with a fish pond, and we're gonna start that project as soon as we can. What that includes is an excavator, backhoe, because you got to dig the trenches for the water to go from the basin, from our water source, into the trenches are going to be dug to make this pond. So it's an elevated, layered pond that includes different species of plants, and so forth. So because it needs the oxygen, because once you build the pond, you got to oxygenize it. You got to make sure it's sealed. So it's a very slow step process. It's actually a 10-step process that one has to take. So it's quite the challenge, but I'm going to take that on.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on with us. I know
Yes.
I hope it's still warm out there.
Oh, it's very warm. It's just windy.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
we're good.
We will put at the end of this, there's a GoFundMe page.
Yes.
This is creating a sanctuary so the animals that are migrating away from the fires and coming onto their land will have a place where they can drink some water and survive.
Yes.
So I think this is really critical. It's very heartwarming. So, and Diana's going to talk a little bit later in a few minutes about the labyrinth walk as well and her sacred practice, because she and both Michael and Diana have been doing amazing work on being sacred people and creating the culture and climate of a sacred, holy world, living with love. And we are very grateful to your leadership and the work that you do. So thank you so much. What's going to happen now is we're going to have Momo Cortez and Denise Willis are going to play the St. Francis of Assisi prayer song.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Oh, Master, grant that I may never seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair and life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. And where the sadness, only joy. Oh, Master, grant that I may never seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It's in pardoning that we are pardoned. It's in giving of ourselves that we receive, and in dying that we are born to eternal life.
Thank you so much, Momo and Denise. This is the theme of our evening, which is the focus on love. And it comes from the George Latour painting, which is a painting of three different images of Mary Magdalene. This one is called the smoking flame, because you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And what is this fire that he's trying to get us to understand? It's the passion and the dedication that she had to becoming a fully awakened, a fully enlightened human being. And she was, people think, well, why is she not going away? Why is she coming on the scene stronger and stronger? And I think what people don't realize is because she is actually really with us. The Course in Miracles talks about the fact that there are those who saw God in the Teacher's Manual. It speaks of there are those who saw God directly while they were here on earth, and they retained their personality and their ability to interface with us later on. And you heard Kathleen McGowan had an apparition story, Elizabeth Kelley had an apparition story. And then the Course goes on to say that there are those who Mary Magdalene gives her ideas, because she only appears when and where it is helpful. And she has given me so many ideas. Lyndon Adams, who's on the call, she also was someone who downloads and channels Mary Magdalene. Melissa Sovia Joy, who wasn't able to be with us because she got COVID, she also channels Mary Magdalene. Why is so many? Because she is an aspect of all of us. She's an aspect of the divine, and the divine emanation is now coming through because the consciousness is now there. We are now in a place where we have the consciousness. And this is kind of one of the valuable teachings that we've lost, by not having the Gospel of Mary Magdalene taught to us as children, that Mary Magdalene had such a dedicated and concentrated focus on the truth, on the light and love of God, that she became fully realized what they call anthropos, human being. And this is very different from what we're experiencing in our world today. We all know that love is the answer. And, but to be loving, to be carrying love forward means that we have to be what is called above the line. When we live above the line, like people like the sacred holy women who are surrounding Jesus and leading his ministry, the female leaders of his ministry, that means that they were practicing these principles of 100% unconditional love, acceptance. They understood that they were at choice to respond instead of react, to live from love instead of fear, to live in an abundance rather than in scarcity. So all the ideas below the line, these are ideas that are ideas of the ego. And the ego is the part of the illusion that we live in. All we need is love. And that every problem that anyone has is solved by love. So in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, this is what I call a Kali moment. You know, the goddess Kali, who's a fierce goddess against the ego. She's a loving goddess to us, but she's a fierce goddess against the ego. And Magdalene says, this is why I tell you, be in harmony. It's like a declarative, demonstrable demand almost. Be in harmony. There's nothing wishy-washy about it. It's very clear. And it's something to really strive for. You know, when I read the Course in Miracles at one time, and it came across a sentence that caught my eye, and it said, so what are these grievances for? It's like these grievances that we have, that do they blaming and shaming and all this stuff, the criticizing, everything, do they bring us more love? Do they bring us more joy? Do they bring us more happiness? No, they don't. So according to A Course of Love, which is the next channeled writing that is really helping to awaken people, the next step from A Course in Miracles is that we are one heart. We are one mind joined in wholeheartedness. We are the heaven of the world. So when we enter this state that Mary Magdalene was in, this anthropos state, this wholehearted state, that is when we can begin to really, because it's supposed to be heaven on earth, not heaven in the heavens, right? So the other thing is, another sentence I found says, it is this joining of the human and the divine that ushers in love's presence. So you see, that's why I do sacred ceremony. That's why I gather the women. That's why I bring forth the singing and the dancing and all the beautiful things that we share here, is because this joining of the human and the divine ushers in the love's presence. And love's presence is what's fun. That's what's so great, right? So for every joining, every union that you enter into, your real world is increased. You know, this is July of 2021, and the 4th of July weekend, there was 189 people killed by the hand of gun violence. It's like, whoa. It was like people were popping off people all over the place. And it's like a terrifying thing that we have so many guns, but what is the solution? Again, the solution is love. So for every joining, every union that you enter into your real world, what is the real world? The real world is the world of love. That becomes increased, and what is left to terrify you decreases. Wow. Don't you want what terrifies you, the fear that you feel, to decrease? Then you have to join with other people who are sustaining a more joyous, more loving, and that's the priestess world for me. For somebody else, it might be the world of artists, the world of musicians, people who are singing and dancing, people who are celebrating life. These are the people that you want to join with. And then the real world increases. That means you have more love and more joy and more fun. And then what is left to terrify you decreases. So this allows you to be able to live more and more of your time in the world above the line. Well, Magdalene is the demonstration of someone who lived above the line. She was always in the solution. She was taking action as a leader of the disciple women. She was sitting at Jesus' feet, trying to get clarity and really paying attention. Her focus, her choice was to understand what the words of the master were. And so by doing that, she was able to get the result, which she understood that she was 100% responsible for her ability to know that she was one with God. So in her meditation in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and I'll be doing another video on that, which you can sign up on my website and get more information about the Gospel of Mary Magdalene.info. It's where we have to go. Otherwise, we're going to just be living in hell, and the climate's going to rip and tear apart the world, and that doesn't have to be. We can come into the solutions. We can come into better choices. We can have the clarity. We can be a cause. We can all be 100% responsible with the thinking that's required to make a world living in love. And isn't that what we really all want? Everybody's looking for love, right? So, thank you. Blessed be. She is considered the Lady of the Labyrinth. She stands in the center of love. She is the living demonstration of wholeness, complete, balanced, anthropos state of being. In other words, she's enlightened. And that has been so downplayed through the years. And so just a little brief history on the labyrinth. Some of you may not know, the labyrinth is an ancient tool. It goes back to the 2nd century, some of the oldest labyrinths. And it was very tied in with the pagan culture. And in the pagan world, the center of the labyrinth was feminine. It was where we danced for joy, right? And the goddess Ariadne was the mistress of the labyrinth. And I'm going to give a very brief story about hers, because she was the one where the maidens were dancing in the center of the labyrinth. They were waiting for their suitors to find them. And it was such a joyous and beautiful time until the Minotaur took over the labyrinth. He was a half man, half bull, and he took over the labyrinth and would kill or eat the women who came into the center. So he was kind of a bullheaded man, and I'm sure some of you have met some of your own bullheaded men in the world. But anyway, so Ariadne came up with an idea that she'd send her beloved into the center of the labyrinth with a ball and a red thread so that he could come out really quickly, and the ball would be thrown in to distract the Minotaur so that he would turn his back, and her beloved would be able to slay him. And it's interesting, this red thread, you heard the expression of an email thread. One of the universities that was developing the internet way back when heard the story of Ariadne, and he said, oh my God, that's what we need in emails. When they were trying to figure out how to do emails, they say, we need a thread. We need Ariadne's thread. So that's why we have a thread of emails. And they used to call it Ariadne's, but they dropped her name for that. So, she had a clever idea of how to make the center free so the maidens could dance. But when the churches were trying to incorporate and encourage the pagan people come in and join the church, they changed it to give her boyfriend the credit, so that it was the Christ thesis path, and they dropped her name altogether. So this has been a lifelong story for a lot of women. But the labyrinth became a representation of making the pilgrimage to Jerusalem. And since it was dangerous to actually go on the pilgrimage to the holy cities, they had people walk the labyrinth to get to that place. And of course, one of the most famous ones is the one at Chartres Cathedral, which is a beautiful labyrinth. The cathedral was built over a Druid well, which was a pagan's, thing. So Kathleen McGowan has been a tremendous historian in regards, and she has a new book coming out in December. She's having a Magdalene gathering, and we wish you the best, Catherine. Kathleen, we hope you're getting well and all is well and good with you. But she did want us she wanted to share from the Source of Miracles, which is her story. She had an apparition as well appear to her that warned her that her son might have some difficulties in his birth, and so she wrote this book because with the thought of losing her son, she went into deep prayer, and she used the Lord's Prayer, which is represented in the petals. So I'm going to let her tell the story.
I originally wrote about Jesus' miracles as if they were metaphor and allegory. We weren't really supposed to believe that the miracles were real. We weren't supposed to believe that they were physical miracles. We weren't really supposed to believe that Jesus fed 5,000 people with a couple of loaves of bread and some fish. And then our little boy Shane was born with a life-threatening illness. We were told that he would not live through the night. I found myself putting into practice this idea of prayer in a way that I had never practiced it before. He spent the next 3 weeks in intensive care. Shane regenerated all of the organs in his body. And 3 weeks later, we took Shane out of the neonatal intensive care unit as a perfectly healthy newborn. For me, watching Shane create physical miracles was entirely transformational. It made me realize that one of the great lessons I was here to learn and that I was here to share was that miracles are not allegory. Miracles are not metaphor. Miracles are real. Miracles are physical things that we can manifest in our lives every single day through faith and through love. My new book is called The Source of Miracles: 7 Powerful Steps to Transform Your Life Through the Lord's Prayer. There are so many people out there who are struggling, and they don't need to be. Everyone can create their own miracles. We're standing in front of a labyrinth. The concept of the labyrinth is very much like life. You walk a path that's very circuitous. You walk a path where you don't always know where the turns are going to take you. The important spiritual metaphor of the labyrinth is that as long as you stay on your path, you will always find your way to the center where God awaits you. So in my book, The Source of Miracles, I take you through this extraordinary transformational prayer process, utilizing the Lord's Prayer and breaking the Lord's Prayer down into the teachings as they are broken down in the petals. So for example, the first petal represents faith. The second petal represents surrender. The third petal represents service. The fourth is abundance. The fifth is forgiveness. And the sixth is overcoming obstacles. When you can accomplish all 6 of those things in your life, you will find that you ultimately are transformed. This process has been so transformational in my life. I wake up every day excited to be alive and thrilled to be in the world, and so excited to share that feeling with so many people out there.
Thank you. I wanted to explain just a couple of things very briefly about the labyrinth, and then we're going to show our beautiful labyrinth dance with our dancers. The labyrinth has a birth canal that goes because it's really birthing heaven on earth. And so walking the labyrinth, there's no wrong way. You can't get lost or anything, and you come to the center of love. Each of the petals is represented by the Lord's Prayer. So the first petal, the second petal, as you can see, that each one of these petals has a component of the Lord's Prayer. So you have Our Father who art in heaven, and that represents faith. And then the second petal is surrender, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And then the third petal is on earth as it is in heaven, which is the way that we serve. We're supposed to be stewards of this planet and be of service and help each other. And then the fourth petal is give us this day our daily bread, for this is an abundant universe, especially when we're sharing and practicing principles of generosity. And then we forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And then when all of that happens, it leads us not into temptation, but deliver us from our errors, is a more modern way of saying it. So, and then of course, thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory is the center, which is the love that we all are. So I asked Diana to come on because she was really guided to do the labyrinth practice.
Hi. Okay, so the labyrinth is an incredible tool. I personally was guided to it directly by the Divine Mother, who in 2014 guided me to walk the labyrinth at Grace Cathedral. I began doing that, and it was just an incredible meditation. And I highly suggest it for those that may struggle with sitting still and just meditating that way, because the labyrinth gives you a chance to think and walk and pray and move all at the same time. And when you think about it, this is the way women have prayed for millennia. Women have prayed, with a baby on their hip and stirring a pot of soup. So there's always movement. There's singing, maybe dancing. It's different. It's a more feminine way to pray and to meditate. So I found it interesting that I was guided to this. And one time the first time I walked, I got into the center, and I heard the mother say to me that she was giving me a meditation that she wanted me to share, and I'm going to share that now. So what the meditation was is to walk and enter the labyrinth, connecting myself to my mother and to her mother, and go as far back in my matrilineal line that I knew in terms of names. And then after that, just keep walking and connecting back further and further in your matrilineal line. So we're connecting womb to womb to womb, and walk all the way back in your line, all the way to the mother of us all. Now, as you do that, you will find yourself stopping at different points on the labyrinth, and just realize that you're connecting to an ancestor, a common ancestor with other people on the planet. And at first you might be connecting to hundreds of people, then thousands of people, millions and billions by the time you get to the center. And when you're in that center, the center of the rose, that's the still point. And there you can ask the mother for her blessings and for any message that she has for you on your path. Maybe it's your next step. Maybe it's your work in the world that you're currently not aware of. And then you stay there. And when you feel ready, begin to walk those blessings back out to the world. Again, stopping at the different turn. Just be consciously aware that you're walking the blessings of the Divine Mother out to all the different ancestors that you share with all of the people on earth. You share your work in the world, walking your work in the world out, and you're blessing everyone on the planet as you do this. I've taken people on this meditation on the labyrinth, and it's been really profound. It's a blessing. It's something that we can do. It's something that we can do during these times when there are times where it just seems overwhelming. And I'm just offering this as one tool that really helped me. I highly suggest that if you have a labyrinth near you, and if you don't, there's something online called the Labyrinth Locator. And you can just put your zip code or your town in, and you can find a labyrinth near you and give it a try. It's really a profound meditation.
Yeah, it's like a labyrinth locator that
Right.
that you can Google, and you'll be able to find labyrinths near you if you're drawn or called to this practice of meditation. It's something that's very much connected with a lot of the feast day celebrations of Mary Magdalene. So I did want to bring it in, and thank you so much, Diana. I appreciate you guys making the effort to do this, and the land is beautiful. The mountain is gorgeous. Give us a shot of Mount Shasta again so we can see. Yeah, barely any snow, but a little bit. Thank you so much. Because I do want to just acknowledge the musicians. We had such a wonderful time being able to create dance and music. And you're going to hear James Mosley, who sings the Lord's Prayer, and Denise Rillis, who plays it on the piano. We just want to take this time now. We're going to enter into the labyrinth in your own mind, to go into your heart and enter into the Christ Sophia consciousness at the center of love, where we focus on love. For this particular moment, I've asked Lyndon Adams, my beautiful sister, Magdalene's sister, if she would come forward and help us with being able to get into our hearts with a heart-centered meditation. And then the dancers will dance right after that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christy, for that lovely introduction. And so now I'm inviting you to get out of your head and into your heart. So if you would sit comfortably with your knees and feet apart and gently close your eyes. And we're going to continue with that breath in through the nose and out through an open, relaxed jaw, twice as long on the exhale. And we're going to build upon what we did at the beginning of this beautiful event. So as you close your eyes, just bringing your awareness to the base of your spine, and you're going to drop those grounding cords down your legs into the center of the earth. And still on that long breath, I invite you to bring up all those blessings of Mother Gaia, those promises that she made to you to nourish every need that your body has this lifetime. Bring that wonderful energy back up through your legs, up your spine, and bring it into your heart. Let's take a breath. And from the back of your heart chakra, this time traveling up the chakra ladder with your intention to go 300 feet above the top of your head to the location of the 12th chakra, the direct access to the Godhead. As you arrive, feeling the warmth of your welcome, the sense of your belonging, as you fill and fill and fill with the energy of those divine birthright gifts, divine light, divine love, divine grace, divine wisdom, divine compassion, and divine gratitude, bringing all those gifts down the chakra ladder, placing them into your heart. Let's take a breath. And tuning in to your heart chakra, noticing that you've filled your heart chakra with the most incredible high frequency energies that this planet has to offer. The 6th dimensional energy of the earth, the 12th dimensional energy of the heavens. And I want you to take a conscious breath and bathe every cell in your physical body with these highest of all frequency energies. Let's take a breath. And on this next breath, allowing the energies to overflow, even your physical form, to radiate this love and light and wisdom that is yours, that you've earned, that is your sacred birthright. Radiate it out to the world. Be the blessing of love. Let's take a breath. And ask Goddess Mother and Mother Father God to fill every cell of your body with the light of pure love. Let's take a breath. And as you sit in this beautiful energy that we have co-created, just be still. Listen for the whispers of your soul. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, come out nice and slowly, bringing all this wonderful energy with you so that you can participate with our dancers in this exquisite ritual tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Blessed be. Let the dance begin with Ilona Marshall, our beautiful choreographer.
which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Alona and Celestine and Karen LaPuma. Thank you guys so much. It was so beautiful. I really appreciated the beautiful way that you expressed. The women have now danced in the center and returned the divine feminine to the center of the labyrinth. Thank you all. Blessed be. So the next journey that we're going on for the beautiful opportunity to express the divine feminine in the magnificent ways that she does now that we have the Magdalene back in the center of the labyrinth and we've had a chance to dance the dance where you are now going to be the anointed ones. So hopefully people have brought their anointing oils and are prepared to follow along in an anointing ceremony. I found this beautiful quote in Cora and Charles Fillmore wrote in their book on the 12 powers. The anointing with the precious love of the divine feminine is necessary for the great demonstration. And this was written, 100 years ago? But the fact that they were conscious enough and aware that is the precious love of the divine feminine that is needed for the great demonstration. So thank you so much. And I wanted you to appreciate and see this is what we consider a lost sacred art of anointing. And when we used to meet together in the ceremony, you can see how my priestess sisters, that was Marguerite Riglioso, and this is Galia Magdalena. And you can see how the depth and the way they hold the sacred in anointing the heart of the people. It was just so gorgeous. And women were so moved and touched to be touched, because the sacred touch, which we are losing, because now with COVID, it's becoming much harder for us to touch each other. But to be together in ceremony this close, the sacred touch is 100% safe. There's no funny business. There's only the recognizing of you as divine and the blessing. And it's done as an equal. You're equal with me. So with this, I would like to call my dear beloved Darren, who has been so wonderful. So I asked Darren to assist me in the anointing ceremony because Darren is an energy healer. He works with 5D healing, and the vibration of anointing is also a very high level vibration. So each of the chakra centers, has a Sanskrit sound to it. And so as I go through this, Darren is I will do the anointing, and you can take your oil if you have it. If you don't have an oil, you can just take your hands together and just put the intention of prayerful energy between your hands, and you can bless yourself energetically with that. But otherwise, it would be great, because we don't think of embracing ourselves and loving ourselves with our sacred divine self. And this is what the new earth is all about. This is what the new earth is bringing in, our higher self, fully embodying it in the dance, in the song, and in the movement. And then once we get into that place with the beauty of what the divine energy brings us. It brings us joy, it brings us happiness, it brings us peace, it brings us everything that we want in our life. It brings us abundance. It makes us an attractor for love. So blessed be to all of you as we begin this ceremony. So I'm going to have Darren help us to take a deep breath in and just connect and ground into our bodies first, and then we'll do a kind of a call and response back and forth on the actual anointing.
Thank you, Christy. So we've already had some wonderful grounding instructions previously, so can you just remember that about, first of all, grounding your foundation, which would be pulling your energy in from any place that's been dispersed out to back into your sacred body, and then sending that grounding cord that you heard about earlier down into the earth. And there's a precious chakra 2 feet below your body in the earth called the Earth Star. And so you can intend to send your energy and just drain anything other than your full presence. So be in full presence right now with this sound. Sound is totally of the body. And so just let yourself go fully into the sound by feeling it actually vibrating in your physical body, hearing it with your ears, feeling the emotion of it, and just feeling the interconnection of it, any way you can.
Blessing. Thank you. So as we take a deep breath in, we're going to go and open the crown chakra, where it is our connection with the divine that is always ever present and available to us for the asking. As we bring that energy down and help illuminate the soul of our being. Come down and we anoint the third eye, where Magdalene realized and she achieved the great accomplishment that we do not see with the body's eyes, we see with our vision. What is your vision? Your vision for a new earth, your vision to live in a world living in love. The body's eyes can only see the past. The body's eyes evaluate and judge in a nanosecond. So we move up to the third eye and we open the third eye so that we may see clearly the truth of who we are, that we are divine. Then we go to the throat chakra, where when we have a vision of love, we share that. We extend it through our words, that we speak the truth, that we are love, and we hold you in love and deep compassion. And it is our words that make manifest, for in the beginning was the Word, and the Word is I am God. I know who I am. I know how I serve. I am here, I am here, I am here. And you welcome in your higher self, where it is your higher self that will speak words of wisdom that you may not have known what to say, but the higher self has the perfect right thing to say. Blessed be my beloved. And then last but not least is the heart, For what we know now is the heart is the seed of the brain. It is the wisdom of Sophia that knows how to solve all problems. For the only problem that anyone has at any moment is a lack of love in that present moment. So the heart knows to extend love, to share love, to bring love to you so that you may be at peace and your world will strengthen and expand in this love. So we have seen the world living in love tonight. We have witnessed the demonstration of sacred holy men and women who are wanting to extend love to you and wanting to create an expanded sense of field of love. We need this in the world. We need us all to rise up. We need the temple to be built and restored so that we may have the open columns to walk in, that we may have the scholars speak and the dancers dance, and that the labyrinth may be returned to the Magdalene. And so I've asked Darren to sing John Lennon's song, Imagine, so that we can imagine the return of the temple and the return of the love in our hearts.
Welcome everybody to sing along with this wonderful anthem to oneness. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Oh, imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living lives in peace. You might say I'm a dreamer.
Just
but
imagine.
I'm not the only one.
Temple's returned.
I hope someday you'll join us.
Wouldn't that be glorious? You join us.
And the world will live as one.
May we live as one.
Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. brotherhood of man and woman. Imagine all the people living for today. You might say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Yeah. We're on our way, folks. So it's just, how bad do we want a gorgeous, beautiful temple? So thank you for your vision and keeping your vision going. I really appreciate it. So I just have to give a shout out to Alona Marshall. Thank you, honey, for your incredible work and dedication to creating a place so that the feminine could enter the center of the labyrinth and dance once again. And thank you very much, Elizabeth Kelley, for your beautiful talk on St. Francis, and Michael and Diana for your dedication as sacred holy people and creating the Holy Land for us. And Celestine Starr, my beloved, thank you. You were just awesome. And this girl had my back. Like you would not believe. I mean, she pulled rabbits out of what's that expression? You pulled a rabbit out of the hat when we thought, oh my God, how are we going to get this to happen?
I pulled it out of a rose.
Oh, she pulled it out of the rose. Yeah, we have to have new language here. So anyway, thank you for all your beautiful commitment to the divine and the sacred. And Karen LaPuma, thank you so much, honey, for your fantastic dancing. She's just this gorgeous, beautiful woman. She's the exemplary example of the enlightened woman, the wisdom keeper.
Yes.
Beautiful astrologer as well. And she warned us that the moon was not in a good place for us to do all this, but we persevered, boy. We pushed through. We made it happen, didn't we? And then Ame Lyndon Adams, you are such a sweetheart, and I have appreciated you so much. You know, your channeling of Magdalene. She and I have hooked up around the Magdalene big time, and we got more surprises coming down the road. But it's, as you'll see at the end, look at that. Now, isn't that fabulous? I mean, can everyone see that? The temple?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is the way to do it. This is a goddess temple. This is, you know, you there's no barriers, there's no moats, there's no princess in the tower locked up. You know, it's like you go in and you meet the female scholars, you meet the, you know, you get to see that everything's open, everything's shared, and the arts, and the statues and the artwork, it's all a part of who we are and the way things should have been for us, right? I just want to thank Denise Relis for doing the rehearsals, playing the music, putting the score together, and James Mosley, thank you so much. James plays in a band with Ricardo Moncrief, and they're airing on Channel 26. Awesome musician, one of the blues, Motown, great guys. So I'm so thrilled to meet James. And Momo Cortez, thank you, sweetheart. You have been just a godsend. And you can see from her beautiful song that she sang that she brings that. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate everything that everyone's doing. I'm thanking everyone. And the healing dedication for this new sanctuary is at GoFundMe.com, and you put in Mount Shasta 350. 360. This is one of the next things that we're working on, which is the Magdalene's dedication and focus with this James Latour painting. So you can learn a lot more about who we are and what we are at my website, gospelofmarymagdalene.info. Sign up to get information we do rituals from time to time. We would love to have a temple where we wouldn't have to schlep things, and we'd love to be off Zoom and in.
Oh yeah.
So this was created on the feast day of Mary Magdalene. This is showing all the chakras open, whole-hearted, open-hearted, third eye open, crown chakra open, the full Monty, all the energy coming through. We get to have that when we practice these principles. And one of the ways that we do it is by practicing being sacred, practicing claiming that we are divine. So thank you all so much. I'm so grateful, and blessings to you. I'm going to open it up. If anyone wants to share anything, please do. Thank you so much. I'm very excited. Yeah.
I want to say something. I want to thank you for initiating these rituals of sacredness, and it was a joy to dance with my two pals with the Lord's Prayer over and over again. It was fun. It was really great, and they were amazing. Both of them were just the work that they put in that little thing is a lot. Amazing.
And we want to thank Ed for editing. He did a
Yes,
job. And
our tech person Darren Starwin as well. Thank you, Darren.
Yeah.
Our sacred masculine anchor for doing all of the, so I don't have to be so much in my, I can't, it's like really hard to go left brain, right brain. But yes, Ed Ellsworth, big shout out to Ed.
Big
Amazing
shout out.
editing.
The editing took 5 hours, so that was really great. And I want to thank Karen and Celestine for working so hard, and Ed for working so hard. And it was really a joy to finally dance on the labyrinth. And then we didn't dance there until that day. So going through that really brought the Lord's Prayer into my body. And if you watch this again, the movements are simple enough that you can actually follow along and move with them and see if that moves you, or make up your own movements. But
beautiful
it really brought it into my body.
Yeah.
Well, that dance was just gorgeous. All three of you are just amazing, and
thank you.
I got to watch it a few more times.
Yes, we will actually have a link just to the dance alone.
Yeah.
Which, when I send out the video of this whole film, I will also include the dance so you can enjoy it a little bit more, because you only were able to dance that day, but the truth is you rehearsed day after day after day
for weeks. This is just the movements. I mean, Mona's
figuring it out,
and choreographer, and she took the time with each of us to over and over, so we could see our movements and really get into what that meant, each part of it. And I want to thank Kathleen McGowan, who was not here today, but she really laid that out for us when you and I, Christy, we went to her workshop in 2017, and she laid out the beautiful labyrinth, and you've carried it and shared it, and now we brought it together, and Elizabeth put her sprinkling on it with, wow, what Assisi was a very special man, and he's always been a special in my heart, but you really brought out the significance of that order holding the land and not letting it be taken over or destroyed, which it's very easy to do these days. There's a lot of land in Persia and different areas of Syria, northern Syria, that has been destroyed at Christian churches. Odessa, all the Christian churches are now down, but the town over from Odessa is where the Christ, he walked among those areas, and there's a few where they still speak Aramaic, so we're so lucky.
I just wanted to say one thing, that while being up here, I work with Archangel Michael, and Diana works with Mother, and Archangel Michael has indicated a couple of days ago that the earth has already started to shift. It's beginning in the southern hemisphere. As you can see, all the fires in the Ring of Fire, it's happening around the world. And some of these temperatures, like in Death Valley, some scientists have said it's the hottest spot in the entire world. Well, now that's happening everywhere else. So we're starting to rotate. We're starting to flip. It started 5 days ago, and it's going to get probably hotter. The climates are going to start increasing. But this was beautiful to have this here today under the full moon. So it's thank you all.
Yeah, the full moon. And Elizabeth, I want you to also share too, because I think that one of the things I really appreciated about what you shared was that, we have this whole polarized world, and the story about St. Francis and the Muslim sheik coming together, and because he was wearing the robe, the sheik thought he was Muslim, and that allowed them to connect and make friends. And when they connected and make friends, and he found he loved St. Francis, how incredible is that story? It's like a story for our times now that we need, because we need to find ways to connect in friendship. And it's when there's the friendship and the love, that's when people say, wow, this is somebody I can trust because I feel that love. And that's why I'm trying to keep the sacred anointing oils happening in the touch, because that sacred touch is so devoid in our culture. Anyway, you want to share?
I guess what I want to say is I got so wrapped up in researching this time, so I expanded the story, but the story is rivetingly interesting because of the way Francis had this capacity and courage to listen to the Sultan, and the Sultan was educated enough to really take in what Francis was saying, and they really came to a commonality, realizing that they were worshiping the same God, and the intentionality of love for each other, and so different than how we are approaching the Islamic world now, but also how at that time the Crusaders were demonizing the Muslims when they were praying 5 times a day. And I didn't bring it out, but when Francis came back after spending 3 weeks with the Sheikh and seeing them pray 5 times a day, he began this prayer with the monks to pray 3 times a day. And so that started within Christian monasticism, that influence. So there's a lot of interest now in this aspect of St. Francis's life, and that's what I want to say. There's been books are coming out when this was quite a hidden piece of information about Francis and his interaction with the Sultan.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's so important for us to learn how to really share and extend our love. And Galia Magdalena, she is the priestess that I showed you a picture of her in the anointings. And oh my God, on my YouTube channel, there's a whole video that Galia and I did on just keeping the idea of sacred touch going and letting people understand why it's so beautiful and important. And Deborah Giusti, thank you, Deborah. Deborah helped with our promotion with the Wishing Well Productions, and she has been such a powerhouse. Oh my God, with the Saturday Night Alive, it's really been amazing. Michael and Diana, the GoFundMe is Mount Shasta 360 wildliferefuge.com. Is that right? Do yes. I have it right? Okay, great. Kathleen McGowan, unfortunately, got sick with a fever, and hope we're keeping our fingers crossed she doesn't have COVID. She was going to do a more updated video for us, recording live from France. She just finished a Magdalene tour. God bless her. I saw her. It looked exhausting to me, but it's a fabulous tour. If you haven't gone on one of her travel adventures, the storytelling and the research, the 30 years of research and this very profound connection that she has. She's doing a Magdalene gathering at the first weekend in December. So you can find out more by signing up for her newsletter or going on her Facebook. See the women who are connected to the Magdalene, and when we join together, if we joined, like really joined, like big time, the world would change, rather than the small little pods that we're doing. So we need to help awaken other women to it. And I see Jens Jorgensen on. Thank you, Jen. And I have to give a shout out, Santone De La Vie and Joel Kaufman. They have had my back and have been such supporters of my work in helping to bring forth the divine feminine. So,
Christy?
Yes.
I want to share, just second something you just said, that you said instead of just having a small gathering of sacred women, bring this out. And I just totally feel like, look at all the different challenges and crises on our planet. More divine feminine, more in touch with the feminine is the cure for almost all of it.
Yeah.
And so, and the feminine within men also, not just within people of female gender.
Right.
And that somehow this is the time to bring down the destructive patriarchy, and the feminine is actually totally what's needed to shift, environmentally, socially, in terms of, justice in the world and food supply, everything. The feminine energy is what, the suppression of the feminine energy is what's been at the root of a lot of the problems. So let's send this energy out all over the planet right now.
Yes. No matter what we do, we always include the men. And we are so grateful for the men who come and join with us, because we need you. Diana's got offerings with the Temple of the Womb, Wisdom.
Temple of the Holy Womb. Temple of the Holy Womb.
Beautiful. Why not? We're ready.
Yeah.
Very powerful offerings. So lots of incredible women who are doing some very powerful work. And Elizabeth, you're going to be on Kathleen Osbo's next event, right? Is that this weekend, or is one coming up later?
I'm working with Kathleen Osbo and Dan Craig Morris on the 14th of August, and we're doing something on the Pistis Sophia.
Oh, fantastic.
Dan and I are going to create continuing classes on what we're calling Gnosis of the Heart. And
we will definitely get everybody informed about that one, because the Pistis Sophia has some really profound information in it.
Yes, it has like a whole code on ascension within in this old, very, well, maybe not so ancient, but maybe 3rd century text, where they were experiencing conversations with Jesus 11 years after his resurrection. So it's a story, and it's a 3 or 4 part book story on Jesus's teaching 11 years after the resurrection, on how all his disciples can ascend. And so it's really quite a profound text that Dan has been working on and dedicated to for over 20, if not more, years. And so he has a lot to share.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a whole series on this that Dan is going to be spearheading to promote his new book, which is coming out shortly.
So anyone else would like to share anything? That you can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. It was so beautiful to be with all these Magdalene hearts.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a joyous energy, isn't it?
I feel totally at home with all of you. It's so funny because even as a young girl, I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and anytime they made any reference to Mary Magdalene, I would connection. I felt the sadness. I felt the shame. I felt It's like I brought all this stuff into, and I grew up at the base of the St. Mary Magdalene Church, and just like so many things. Not a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Galia, please.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just want to express my gratitude. What a wonderful evening. It's just everything went so deep for me. It's just been absolutely wonderful. And I love seeing your beautiful faces, all of you. Christy, you always look like an angel and you have this aura about you. You're exactly where you need to be. That's for sure.
Yes. Nothing makes me happier. Believe me. It's just
I see that.
Love is like the best.
Yes. Well, it shows, darling. It shows. And the dancers were wonderful. Elizabeth was fascinating. And I love, now I'm getting this vision of the temple.
Yeah. We need a temple, don't we? The community that needs to fund it,
Yeah. Well, visualization is very strong. I think a lot of you know Nancy Dew, now known as Anna, but I stood with Nancy and a half a dozen other priestesses on her land, visualizing the red tent, which is the temple she built on, much more modest temple, but nevertheless a temple on her land. And a year, maybe 2 years later, there it was. And we just visualized it.
That's the way. Well, it's been coming in very strong for me. I'm ready to post a Facebook page about it because, with the insanity of what's going on in the world right now.
Yes.
And the temple is represented by this open columns. And when you walk through the columns, what do you see? You see the goddess statues of all the divine feminine. And they're extraordinary. I think I was probably a little girl that was holding her mother's hand as she was walking up the steps.
Yes.
Walking up the steps with your mom to go as she's going to worship Diana. That would be so awesome.
Perfect. I see it. Yes.
Yeah. So, there's a thing called 6 degrees of separation. So what that means is with all of us here and going out 6 degrees, there's somebody, you connect with every person on the planet, 6 billion people through the circles. And that means that there's somebody out there who knows how to get the funding to build a temple like that.
Yes.
Just within this container of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
2 minutes over our time.
Thank you, Christy.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Blessed be.
Thank you. Blessed.
Thank you.
For all our little support with the technology. It was a
Oh my God.
Brilliant.
I can't wait till we're back in real bodies with trying to do sacred theater on Zoom. It's like, how do you navigate? I just want to drop in and open my heart.
Thank you, everybody.
I love you.
Love and blessings.
Love and blessings, everyone.
Our Father, Mother God, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Oh,